Hey guys, my name is Naguura, and today I'm going to be talking about my predictions for the MDI Global Final that is going to be happening over this weekend. First of all, I want to talk about the MDI Global Final a little bit because it's a different format, so maybe some people don't know what's going on. Basically, what happened this time around is that there was time trials, and the best 24 teams from those time trials made it into the group stage. So those 24 teams got divided into 3 groups, Group A, Group B, and Group C, according to their seeding in the time trials. And then each group had a tournament that they held over the course of 3 weekends. Each tournament, the first and the second place made it into the global finals. Then there was one additional team that made it from China because the Chinese region had a separate tournament. So the winner from that tournament made it into the global final as well. And then the 8th team that made it into the global final was from a separate tournament called the Last Stand tournament that was held after the group stage was over. So the teams that didn't qualify in the group stage, they were still able to get into that Last Stand tournament and win from there. And the team that got in from the Last Stand tournament was Ambition. The teams that got into the global finals from the group stage was Perplexed as the number 1 seed. We have Complexity as the number 1 seed, and we have Incarnation as the number 1 seed from their individual groups. Then we have Team Name, Obey Alliance, and Echo, surprisingly, that got the 2nd seed of their group stage. And depending on which seed they got, that decided the seeding for the global finals. So we can look at the seeding in the global finals here, because we're going to be doing pick'ems that was made by Echo and CurseForge, I believe, in combination. And I thought it was like a really cool idea. There it is. This is the pick'ems site. You can do this as well if you want to. It's under pick'ems.echoesports.gg, where you can figure out your own pick'ems. There's also prizes that you can win. You can check it out, or you can Google it. I'm not affiliated or anything, so I don't have all of the details. I just really like the idea behind it, so I figured I'm gonna be using this for my predictions for this video. But yeah, so this is the this is the first games. This is the seeding that happened. So Perplex being a number 1 seed, we have Complexity a number 1 seed, Incarnation is a number 1 seed, and then Aster Y is from the Chinese region that is also, of course, a number 1 seed from their tournament. Then we have the number 2 seeds, which is Echo, Team Name, Obey Alliance, and Ambition, who came in from the Last Stand tournament. And this is how the seeding kind of happened. Now, because there was a little bit of an upset in one of the groups, Echo being that team that has the history of winning many MDIs and just having the history of being such a good team. But they actually ended up getting the 2nd seed in their group stage. Incarnation won in their group. So that created a little bit of a weird bracket because we have an upper bracket. If you look at the first 4 teams, they will be the ones playing against each other here. And if you look at those team names, there's some really old, like veteran teams that are known to be incredibly good. With Perplexed, who have done incredibly well lately. We have Complexity and Echo, who are known to be like the best teams in the world, respectively, from EU and from NA. And then we also have Ambition, which is a little bit of a newer team. They haven't competed in the MDI before season 2 of Shadowlands, but they've been playing together a lot on live servers, so they do have this synergy going on within their team, which is arguably really important for the MDI. Now, if you look at the lower part of the upper bracket here, then you can see that the teams are definitely obviously all of the teams in the global finals are really good, but of course, a lot of the favorites that people think would be winning this tournament are all in like the upper bracket, right? While the lower bracket has a lot of seed 2s and then also teams that are new, right? Because Incarnation, for example, is definitely a newer team that did really well in their group stage because they won their group stage. They're the number 1 seed. But a lot of people are saying that Incarnation didn't perform as well as some other first seeded teams, like compared to Perplex and Complexity. People are saying that Incarnation would have lost to Echo if they had a good performance or if they didn't choke, basically, right? So that's why the lowest side of this upper bracket seems to be like the easier part, while the upper version of this upper bracket seems to be the harder part. Now, because it's seated this way, it's very likely that one of the favorites is actually going to get disqualified really early, because I'm going to show you what happens depending on who wins here, right? So let's say Perplexed wins this first game and Complexity wins the second game. Now, in the lower bracket, we already have an elimination round between Ambition and Echo, right? So even though Ambition, they are a promising team, but they have to play against Echo or Complexity in the elimination game if they lose against Perplex in the first round. And that's crazy to think about, right? Because that's already like their second chance and they already have to play against Complexity or Echo. That's crazy, right? But yeah, let's talk about the predictions that I personally have. It's really difficult to come up with predictions because, as I said, like the bracket is a bit weird and so many teams are so good. So I definitely, I think it can go either way in many, many games, but I'm just gonna talk about my prediction anyway. So first of all, I think that Perplex is going to win against Ambition, just because Perplex is the more veteran team and they've shown time and time again that they're really, really good. The one thing that I do also want to mention real quick is that this global final is a bit different to the group stage because teams had more time to prepare. Teams had 2 weeks, I think, to prepare for the global finals, and there's no streaming going on from those teams, and all of the struts that they're coming up with for the global finals are being kept secret. So I do think that the teams that are really good at innovating routes and coming up with really efficient routes, they're going to be the teams that are getting far, right? Because if you're a team that is skilled, that's not enough, right? Because you need to come up with a strategy. No matter how good you are, if you don't have the most efficient route, you're probably going to be losing, even if you're consistent, right? So I do think that a team like Perplexed has shown in the past that they're incredibly good at coming up with efficient routes. Because especially they also won the very first MDI tournament in Shadowlands in Season 1. Perplexed won their group stage against Echo even. They got the number 1 seed because they had more efficient routes, right? So thinking back at that, I feel like Perplex is going to do really well in this tournament just because they're really consistent, they're really good, and they're really smart when it comes to efficient rounds. So I think Perplex just has the upper hand here against Ambition because Ambition is a newer team, and even though they have the ability to do well, of course, I think they might be lacking a bit experience to come up with the most efficient routes. Because of course they've been doing high keys on live servers and not so many lower keys speedrunning on Tournament Realm / MDI. So I do think Perplex has the upper hand here. Now moving forward, Complexity versus Echo, I do think this is a difficult one. Complexity performed really well in their group stage. Obviously they won. And Echo struggled in their group stage. They got their second seed, which was a little bit of an upset because everyone expected Echo to win. So thinking of the group stage, I would want to say Complexity wins here because Echo did underperform. But because the group stage was like one isolated tournament and they had less time to prepare for that compared to the time they can prepare for the global finals, they had 2 weeks to prepare for the global finals. And Echo is also like a very competitive team, a very ambitious team. So I think that because they didn't win in their group stage, I think that gave them even more motivation to do well and to prepare better for this global finals and to like really want it. And we know Echo has the capabilities of doing incredibly well if they want to, if they put the time into it. So I think Echo is going to be the one winning here against Complexity. Even though I think it can go either way. Like, I think both of the teams obviously are capable of winning this one, but I'm just going to say Echo because the extra time that they have to prepare and because they have this extra motivation from the group stage. I'm going to predict a 2-1 just because I think it's going to be really close between them. Then, Incarnation team name, I think this is also going to be a close one, actually. It's difficult to tell who is going to win here, in my opinion, because both of the teams are kind of new. They did exist in some form before, or some of the players did compete before. It's just I don't really know what exactly to go off. If we only go off the group stage performance, which is the only thing you can really go off, then I would say Incarnation wins here because, of course, they got the first place and they did really well. But then Team Name also performed really well. So it's really hard to tell. I think this is going to be a close game, but I'm going to say Incarnation wins 2-1 against Team Name here. Then, Aster Y, the Chinese team versus Obey Alliance. I personally think that this one is also going to be a really close game because, first of all, Aster Y did really well in their Chinese region. They had incredibly good times. And Obey Alliance, though, even though they had 2 player changes in their roster, they still performed really, really well. They, in fact, surprised most of the casters and most of the audience when they did so well because people were kind of assuming that they maybe have fallen off because they had to replace 2 members. But that didn't happen at all. Obey Alliance did perform incredibly well, getting the 2nd seed in their group, beating, I think it was Ambition that they beat. So I think that Obey Alliance and Aster Y is going to be a really close game. Aster Y, though, the reason why I think I want to go with Aster Y here is because we saw some of their runs on YouTube, and they did some things that they came up with themselves. And this is something that I feel like we haven't seen that often from the Chinese region before. Usually the Chinese teams did manage to participate with the Western teams, and they were, like somewhat on like a similar level, but it always seemed like that they were copying strats. It always seemed like they looked at what the Western teams did and then they did the same thing. But that doesn't work this time around. Like this time around, the globals are like secret, right? The practice for the globals is a secret. So during the tournament, they can't copy strats anymore within those 3 days. That's going to be too hard. They have to come up with their own strategies. They can't just copy what other people are doing. And Aster Y did show in their group stage, in their Chinese region, that they did come up with their own strategies, that in fact, the Western teams copied some of Aster Y's strategy for their group stage. So that's why I think Aster Y has a good chance of winning against Obey Alliance. I don't think it's going to be easy because, as I said, Obey Alliance is good. But I think showing that Aster Y, that this Chinese team can come up with their own strategies, routes, and their own innovations is a really good sign that they can compete with other teams here. All right, so now it's going to get a bit more complicated. Perplex versus Echo, I think this is, from past experiences, this is almost like a coin flip in my mind. I kind of want to give the edge to Perplexed because when we had a similar situation like this global final here, which was the very first MDI tournament in Shadowlands, then Perplexed won against Echo. And of course, it's not the same situation, right? But I would want to say that it's somewhat of a similar situation because teams have to come up with their own strategies now and come up with the most efficient route because there has been some time in between. And that's why I just want to give the edge to Perplex because I think they have shown time and time again that they're just incredibly good at coming up with efficient routes. And another thing to note is that Perplex was in the first group, in Group A, to compete in this season, Shadowlands, in the Shadowlands MDI season 2. They basically blasted through their group. Like, they had such incredible times in some of those dungeons that we casters, when we saw it, we didn't even know how incredible this is because we didn't have any other times to compare it to. And once we saw the other teams perform like in the same dungeons, and we saw how much faster Perplex was, it was like, whoa, wow, Perplex was really fast, huh? So that's why I think Perplex is just really good in this kind of environment. So I'm going to give them the edge here. We have Incarnation versus Aster Y. I think this is going to be a difficult one. I personally think Aster Y is going to win just because, again, I think they're a really good team. Incarnation is also like a newer team that comes up with their own strategies and stuff. But sometimes I feel like the strategies that Incarnation comes up with are a bit questionable. It has been working out for them, obviously, since they got the #1 seed. But it almost seemed like, is this really a good strat that they're running? Is it really a good comp that they're running? Or, did the other team just not perform that well? At some point, it's not luck anymore. At some point, it is proof that it works. But I feel like we haven't seen Incarnation enough yet to say that is true, right? We've only seen Incarnation in their own group stage. And even that group stage was not that clear cut, right? It wasn't like, oh, Incarnation was far beyond the best team. It was like, they kind of made their way through, and sometimes, you know, the enemy team that they played against kind of underperformed. So that's why I think Asteroid has like the bigger chance here. Then let's talk about ambition versus complexity. I think complexity is going to win here, which again, I think this is a very, very unfortunate route for ambition because I think they are a really good team. But they didn't get first or second in their group stage. They got third seed in their group stage. Then they managed to qualify in the last stand tournament. And they're a new team, right? So even though they are talented and they're a really good team, I think they're just a bit too new in the MDI style keys to be able to beat a team like Complexity or Perplexed. And it is unfortunate that this is the route that they have, of course, right? Because having to play against Perplexed and then maybe Complexity or Echo, that's just very unfortunate for them, right? I feel bad for them, and it looks like I think that they're bad, but I don't think so at all. I think they are really good. It's just the route that they have is very unfortunate. So I think Complexity is going to win here. Team name, Obey Alliance. I think this is the hard one. I'm going to give it to Obey Alliance here because they're the more veteran team. Same reason, really. I think Obey Alliance did perform really well. Team name also performed really well, but I think Obey Alliance just has this more like veteran team that has been around for so long, that has been performing so well for so long. Even though they did replace 2 of their members, I think in that tournament setting, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to give it to Obey Alliance here. Then I think Incarnation versus Complexity, same thing. Incarnation, I think are a good team, but Complexity is just a, you know, more veteran team. They've shown time and time again that they're so good. So I think this is just how it's going to go. Then I think Echo versus Obey Alliance. Yeah, Echo clearly from like past experiences, just the better team against Obey Alliance. Even though I think Obey Alliance, if they have a good day and Echo doesn't have like a perfect day, then they could win, which is the same for all of those matchups. But from past experience, Echo would be the one winning here. Then we have upper bracket Perplex versus Aster Y, which I do think this is going to be like the end of Aster Y when it comes to their capabilities against the Western teams. I do think Aster Y is going to perform really well, but a team like Perplexed is going to be hard for them to beat. Then we go down, Complexity versus Echo. This is going to be hard one. I think it can go either way. So the only way for me to compare that and to predict who's going to win is again going to past experiences. They already played against each other here, so I'm just going to assume that the same thing is going to happen. Again, the Echo from past experiences just has been better than Complexity in most of the matches that they had. Not all of them, but most. And Echo not performing that well in a group stage, giving them that extra motivation to go all out and do so well here. I think it's just going to give them this edge here. Then again, Echo, Aster Y. I think Aster Y is totally like a team that can win against most teams in these globals. But I think when it comes to like a team like Perplexed or Echo, then I think that's where Aster Y is maybe going to be the, you know, gonna be at the end of their road. But that would be still a really good performance if they would manage to make it all the way to the lower finals here, right? And then the final would be Perplexed against Echo. I think again this could go either way. And this time around I'm gonna go with okay, this is hard to tell because if you're the upper bracket team, then you have more time to prepare for the finals, right? Which would give Perplexed an edge here versus Echo having to play all of these lower bracket games. And Perplexed being really close to Echo when it comes to matchups that we've seen before in the past. It's hard to tell. I think it's going to be really close. I think it's going to be like a 3-2 or something, or like a 3-1. And I don't know, like if you look at the past winners of MDIs, then you would want to go with Echo here because they've been winning, like they're, you know, the reigning champions basically. But Perplexed just has done so well in this season too and has won against Echo before. It's not that they have never won against them. And they're just so promising. They're just so promising. So I have a hard time deciding on who's going to win here. You know what? I think I'm going to go with Echo just because I really think the fact that they lost their group stage against Incarnation. Well, they didn't lose, they got second instead of first, which is not a loss, but yeah. I think it really gave them like all the motivation they needed. And they also had their sixth man with Miris, who, I don't want to say made a mistake, but they basically were missing a little bit of trash percentage. And they didn't notice until the very end, and that's why they ended up losing. So Miris, the sixth man, it was the first time they had a sixth person helping them out with calls and whatnot. And I think because it was the first time Miris was doing it, maybe he didn't exactly have like a plan on what exactly he should be doing as the sixth person. But now that they have seen what happened and that, you know, they missed the percentage and there was other things they maybe have the sixth person do, I think they improved upon this kind of strategy. And now I think Mira is going to be even more useful for them in this global final. And they just have the motivation. I think that's when Echo is motivated and they're at their like top game, then it's just really hard to beat them, right? We've seen that time and time again. So I do think this can really go either way. Like, I would not be surprised at all if Complexity wins this global final. I wouldn't be surprised if Perplexed wins. I wouldn't be surprised if Echo wins. Even SRY, I wouldn't be that surprised. And all the other teams, probably would, like, I think the upper bracket is mainly having the favorites in here. In my opinion, an underdog that I don't expect to win this would be Incarnation, Team Name, and Obey Alliance, and probably also Ambition. All the other teams, I would not be surprised at all. And even an underdog winning is not that far-fetched either, right? I really don't think Incarnation winning would be completely, like, not plausible or anything. I think it would be totally possible that it happens. But yeah, I'm super excited for this because just looking at my predictions here, there's so many ways this could go. And I wouldn't be surprised, right? So tell me about your predictions, guys. Tell me what you think about the MDI. Tell me if you're going to be watching or not. Tell me who do you think will win? Do you think there's going to be any upsets? Do you think Echo is going to get disqualified already after the first round? I mean, that's also possible, right? If they lose against Complexity and then they play Ambition or Perplex, they could be gone after like 2 games. I think this is going to be incredibly exciting. I personally am going to be casting on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. This is going to be at 7 p.m. CET on youtube.com/Warcraft, so on the main Warcraft channel. I'm going to be casting, and it's also going to be, the global final is going to be on the 31st on Halloween, so I'm going to be dressing up, of course. I'm not sure if anyone else is dressing up or if I'm going to be the only caster doing it. It might be looking really awkward, but yeah. Let me know what you think in the comments below. That's it. Thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you liked it, or thumbs up, or whatever it's called. Subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell if you want to get notifications. And have a nice, amazing rest of your day. I hope you're watching the MDI, and I'll see you on the weekend. Have a good one, guys, and I see you around. Bye!